And I was really doubting, I was going through those last little minute jitters, and, I called my father to tell him where I was going and what was going on. And, Dad, is this really what I want to do? Like, fuck, being an artist? Like, come on, it's like telling people you want to be like an actor or something, or, where people just don't take you seriously until they've seen you in something, or, and even art is probably even worse, like, well, fuck, you're good luck, and so it's crazy, and I'm very sensible. I'd like to think so, and I went through that whole phase of like questioning: is this really something that I can do? Hi, my name is Pierce Meehan. I'm an emerging contemporary artist working in visual mediums. The materials I currently use relate to themes surrounding aquaculture. I had a blast chatting with Ty. Thank you for the good conversation and cold beer.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening to episode 5. Very happy to have Pierce on the show. You can see his work at piercemeehan.com. He's having a heck of a time with his surf panel series, inspired by his hometown and family in Southern California. One of the many things Pierce learned from his dad that he talks about in this episode is the idea of being an artist of life, how your passion comes out and how you choose to live and choose to work. He has been on a quest since early on for exposure to ideas. And after this conversation, I can't help but think he'll be doing a lot of interesting things in his lifetime. I hope you enjoy. Thanks, Pierce, for being on the show. Thanks also to Aaron Mason for sound design and Caitlin Watkins for the visual artwork and music. Thank you all for listening, as always, and here we go. So what brings you to New York?
I'm visiting clients, and I'm going to go out tomorrow to the Hamptons to go look at and hopefully repair a piece that was damaged in shipping on the way out here. So it was my first real, a big fuck up, and it wasn't my fault, and so it wasn't their fault. It was just poor shipping.
Yeah.
And so it'll be interesting. So it's kind of a test for me. So I was able to ship out my materials and drop ship my materials and bring my tooling with me. So that was like the sketchiest thing, is bringing like all these tools with me on a fucking airplane. So it was just hilarious, but it was a nightmare. But it all worked out. And then to see you guys and see some friends.
Nice, man. I thought maybe you were here for a show.
No, I'm not doing a show right now. The only show I've got booked on the books right now is the Ron Herman show in Japan in January and February. So that's
2017.
What? Yeah. So I'm really excited about that, and I just got in the planning stage. So I always like to be so prepared for shows. So I book them at least 6 months in advance.
Yeah.
Just so I have the right collection and the right mindset when the pieces are created.
Yeah. Do you like that part of it, the travel?
It's cool. It definitely mixes it up, man. I mean, we come from such a place where we see so many of the same people at the same bar doing the same shit, telling the same story. It's nice to break out a little bit and go travel and, go see some friends. So, I really have enjoyed that quite a bit. It's a small world. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's awesome to be able to truly create something that, at least, a series, at least with this surf panel series, to create something that truly is representative of my experience and my culture that I come from, and that people can understand with ease. And, I mean, all I ever wanted to do through any kind of medium is have that same kind of reaction and interaction with people that musicians have. Like, that sense of nostalgia and that, what you hear when you listen to some really great music is that it instantly, makes you think about something or transport you somewhere. And if I can do that through these kinds of series of work that I've been able to do, I think then that's a win for me.
Yeah. And so when you say it has a nostalgia to it, to Southern California, your upbringing, what is that? What are you?
Well, so
from?
I don't know, like, I'm a very sentimental guy, and, it's kind of, I'm a huge fan of that old school all-American mentality, whether that was ever a real thing, or if it was just a fabrication, but I very much am a fan of those, love stories and great, all-American flicks, like Sandlot and things like that, you know, and just feel good stuff. And I truly believe that, you either live your life in love or in fear, and on so many different levels, and so whether you live with passion and pursue things, or you're scared to, or you speak negatively because you don't understand something, And so nostalgia for me is that old timey, just all American water and aquaculture. And, it's hard for me to really, I know exactly what the feeling is, but it's very hard for me to verbalize, the emotion.
Yeah.
So that's why I've been creating these pieces. But, that those 1950s, that all-American summer, it's that kind of good time feel is where I find a lot of joy, and also a lot of people can understand it. And, everybody experiences terrible, horrible things. And I choose to create work that is reflective of positive vibes, and family and growth and love. I don't know, it's a little bit of my humor and just who I am, so it's reflective of me.
Yeah, it's a little more lighthearted.
Yeah, I think so. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Tell me more about the inspiration behind this particular series with the surf panels.
Well, this whole series was really developed out of the love of being on the water and aquaculture. And I keep thinking that's like a term, but I don't think it really is a term. I use it all the time. But I was very lucky to grow up in a place where boating and boating culture was very much a part of life, and the summers, and year round. We have beautiful weather there, and out here on the East Coast, you guys just kick our ass when it comes to boating. Because I guess it's such a small window that you guys just hit it so hard, whereas we're so leisurely about it, and there's so many places and inlets to go out here. It's so cool, and there's so many islands. Whereas we now that I've learned that, but we go down to Emerald Bay, and we jam over to Catalina, and there's these great little coves, and that was just a big part of we're very lucky to have access to boats. We had whalers and stuff like that, so we go get some beers and get a couple of girls if we're lucky enough, if we did it right. And you get down, you go to Emerald Bay for the day, and you hang out. And I don't know if I'd mentioned, but my good friend, the Hill family, Carson is the son. They converted this tugboat over the last 28 years. It was a commercial tugboat that ended up having the back end smashed out, and they replaced it. It was so great, and it was a huge part of my childhood, spending time aboard some of these boats and around these boat builders, and the Gastock family, and it truly made it just so special every time just getting on the water. And I think I want to mention that the big part of just being out there on that tugboat, though, was the fact that this was more of an extension of the family themselves, and their generosity and their kindness. And so I really started associating things with that, and that love that they showed me through this kind of vessel and through these experiences on the water. And so I think that was a huge part of my development. And when I started approaching, really thinking about larger works outside of normal mediums that I found in art schools, I really was thinking about how do I take my experiences and my culture, and I was trying to think like how Yoki would teach me how to think. How do you take your culture and create your own culture, or to take your experiences and create your own deal? And I always wanted to just create my own place, special and unique compared to everybody else in that world, because I didn't belong. My family, didn't build boats, but I was just always lucky enough to get invited, and I just loved it. So for me, it was falling in love at an early age with surfboards and walking into surf shops. And, God, I couldn't surf. Never could, probably never will be great, but I love it. And seeing those candy-colored boards lined up, for me, that was always just art and just a gallery. And I just loved it. And they're perfect, the fiberglass is there, and the candy colors and the resins and the tints. And I just always loved it, always. Yeah. And, I've had conversations with, like, Bob Hurley, and, he was a shaper before he got into, Billabong, and then he started Hurley and all this, stuff, and we'd geek out over the same stuff, and it was just that love. And I've read quite a bit about Hobie Alter and his passion for all that kind of stuff, and where those guys started creating their own boards and the history behind it, and it was just truly about aquaculture and being on the water. Mm. And so how do you take that and put it on the wall in a sophisticated way that I would want? And so for me, it was those tints and those colors. And so I came up with the concept of, doing these big square pieces. And now we're starting to evolve and change them up a little bit. But the initial concept was I wanted it to be like an 8 foot by 8 foot big tinted piece, and so people would be familiar with it because it's made from the same materials that you understand, so you're nostalgic about it, and that's where the nostalgia comes back. But it's presented in a new way, and in a more contemporary way and clean way. And I think people really figured that out, or at least, can appreciate that. And that's why I think I've been so successful, is I think I did it. And at least we're getting there. Yeah. And I'm never fully done. And but that's kind of where my experiences tie into this particular series.
Yeah, and you've got enough traction to make you feel that you're onto something.
Right, and I know somebody's going to bite me. I know there's some surfboard makers or guys like that could do what I do, but it's been great that the right people have been buying my work. Some big names and some great magazines have shown some stuff, and so if somebody does bite me, and they will, it'll be flattering, and I can't get pissed. Just be like, it'll be cool, but it's just the nature of the game. But it's great to know that I was the first guy. This was truly, maybe people had done stuff that was like it. I've seen great resin work, and there's a great guy named Greg Martz, who is a great actual glasser. They do Waterman's Guild, they do almond boards, they do all the new lightning bolts and all the stuff. And they have he almost kicked the shit out of me one time when I was showing him one of the first pieces that I had done. He was like, hey, and he's really close to Bob Hurley, and he just comes up and he goes, hey, this is my thing. And I was like, whoa, like, what do you mean? Like, sorry, man, like, I don't know, like, I was just come here to see if maybe you guys might want to teach me something, or you can glass a piece for me or whatever. But he does, from the resin drippings, he does all these things on wood that are great, and they're very, almost look like Pollock pieces, and they're great. And you see that around, but he's the master. He's been doing it forever. But once he calmed down and understood, but he got all fiery, man. It was very old school, and like, and he calmed down. But he's been a great supporter, and he understands what I'm doing now, and he's just been great. Yeah. But it's just another testament that there's guys that are kind of close, but nobody's really done what I've done in the scale and on that level that I've seen. I mean, maybe there are, and fuck, I'd love to see them. And I'm not aware yet. So I don't want to say I invented anything, because that sounds like a very cocky asshole thing to say. But I think this concept is very unique, and I think it's very much my own. Yeah.
Do you have artistic
heroes?
Inspirations?
Oh, all the time. Yeah. Richard Serra, love him. McCracken, huge. Ed Ruscha. What's his name? Ed Ruska or Ruske. I can't even say his name, but I'm a huge fan of him. I mean, I'm just butchered his name. No, I'm a huge fan of a lot of these guys. Cool. And always looking. There's another huge guy that influenced me was Chris Burden out of UCLA or UCI. He taught there forever, and he was the guy that really invented danger art. And then he also started doing major assemblages at the end there. That big piece that's at LACMA, that is the Metropolis piece. It's all made from erector set and things like that. It's just incredible. Cool. He was the fellow that had somebody shoot him in the arm. And then he took over, with a hostage, truly did it. Like a public art TV hour. He held this girl hostage, and I met the lady, and she's Phyllis Love Jeans, Lou Jeans out of Southern California, and she's a legend. She's Idris in the fashion world. She's the old lady, but she's just so cool. But the way that he made people think, and the way that he was able to create his own style, but also just get reactions out of people, was something that I admire so much. Yeah. I just love being on the water. Yeah, the ocean seems to be a source of inspiration for so many artists or writers, but it comes out in all different ways. It's so interesting. It's fascinating. And I know, it's not, that's not how I envision myself, as being so inspired by the, the ocean and the moon and sounding all like that. But not that that's a bad thing. It's just, it truly is my happy place. So. Yeah. Tell me a bit about your work process, the creative process. Yeah, of course. It's interesting because there's so many things going on right now in my brain that it's hard for me to slow down. And so I have to write down a lot. I constantly am just like everybody, writing down a million notes and then coming later, and it doesn't make any sense. But so my creative process is, I will speak now, especially with this series where I've been very lucky, where it's almost been entirely commission based, entirely. And I really like that, because I have this one-on-one with these people that are essentially inviting me into their homes, and giving myself or creating something for them is a huge part. So I love it. All starts with a great conversation. and I really get to understand these people and understand the space, and then I come back with them with several different kind of ideas that I have, or sketches or drawings. And with my background in design and stuff, I can do almost photorealistic, sketches of these. And then we'll work together, and it's very collaborative, but it's just great getting to understand these people, and then they really feel involved. And I think that's how art should be, and it's great that they know the story, and they they're just so into it, and it makes me feel good. So I mean, it's a very labor intensive deal, and that was something that I had no idea about, and I had to completely figure out. And that whole learning curve was such a huge drive for the series. I had no idea how to do any of this stuff. I grew up going to a boat factory of a friend. My best buddy's father invented the electric boat, the Duffy boat. So I'd go up to Duffy's factory and just break shit all the time, and I've been doing that since I was like a little kid. And he's just yelled at me so many times in my life, but it was very interesting. So I had to learn all this stuff, and nobody would really teach you. It's such a bro industry. Nobody shows you how to do anything. They kind of tell you to fuck off. Yeah. And I was very lucky to just keep at it, keep bugging the shit out of these guys until they kind of showed me one or two things. And the first couple of pieces, I had them actually glassed by a surfboard glasser, a shop, the first couple. And they didn't do it to the way that I wanted. So I realized that to make these things legit and to do it the right way, I had to learn everything and do it completely in-house and, do everything. Unfortunately, that glassing, polishing process is something that takes years to understand and like fully, get good at. And I've been very good because I'm coachable. I can pick things up, or at least I like to think so. Yeah. And I was able to learn from some really great guys, and also how to shape and do all that kind of stuff. So it was great to learn all and pick up those skills. Yeah. So, and you just get better and better and better. So now I'm at a very comfortable level where I'm very very good at creating some quality work.
You feel yourself getting better?
Oh, every single time, for sure.
Yeah. And when you have those initial meetings, what are you trying to draw out?
I'm trying to just get a sense of these people. How they, what makes them happy, and who they are, and why would I want to create something for somebody. And it's not that it comes from a cocky place, but sometimes you don't want to create something that's going to go live with somebody that just is a bad fucking person, and been very grateful to have great, amazing clients that everybody just gets it, and they're so pumped, and they're so kind and nice, and it makes it very easy to do and create work and that you feel attached to, and that because it all needs to be made with love. Like, if you're making a piece for somebody that really understands it, it's, they just pick up on all the great niceties and all the little nuances that I geek out on. That most of these people geek out on the same kind of stuff, and it's cool. Nice. It's very cool.
And what about your studio?
All right. So the studio that I work out of right now is it's at the Spurgeon Building, downtown Santa Ana, which is going through this huge period of gentrification. It has been for a long time. I would say it'd be similar to like what Williamsburg, way back, but like on a little smaller scale. Yeah. But it's one of the oldest buildings in Southern California. I mean, Orange County for sure. And it's named after the guy that, built Santa Ana. And it's a clock tower, so I have my own little clock tower. It's really cool. Oh, and but the first floor, second floor are leased out. There's retail, and then there's offices, and then the third floor is completely abandoned, and the fourth floor is completely abandoned. And but it's this, each floor is, I'd say, about 5,000 or 6,000 square feet.
Yeah.
And it's just incredible. And it's just this old piece of shit, but it's my piece of shit, and I love it. And so I took one little tiny space that was, maybe 13 feet by 13 feet. And then I took another little space that I started doing the shaping out of, because it was so messy and whatnot. And I was able to just get rent super cheap, and just because the building, there's no AC in it, and it's just so bad. Yeah. And painted all the floors. And then when my father passed, I was able to just keep taking more space, and I really needed something to do and keep my mind off of it. And I didn't want to have all this negative feelings going into the work at that time. So I was able to just one man renovation, like keep taking more space. So I now have about 8 or 9 of those little studios lined up around, and it's like my own little Andy Warhol factory.
Nice.
So I have one room that's the shaping room, one room that's the glassing, room, one room that's dedicated for photo studios, a big office, and then it's all white. Everything's white, and we're gonna have a photo lab, kind of help built in makeshift, and big silk screening room, and then a clay room, and it's just great. It's great to have these resources, and my sister has her studios there too, and she's an amazing painter, so we're able to have a storage room, and then we're going to build maybe a small gallery. But I'm just so grateful to have this incredible space, and everybody that comes there just trips, because you meet me and kind of come off as maybe a particular way, and I don't think you really understand me until you come into my space and you see what I've done. And I actually took these big old logs from the Almond Surf Shop in Newport Beach when they moved from their place on PCH to their own little house. Like, it's really cool, but they left these giant, huge, like, I don't want to say 9 by 9 by 3 feet pillars of wood, and so I turned those into benches, and I've been able just to lay them out, and it feels like a Zen dojo, and that's what I call it. And I had this big Donna Karan poof with this Balinese cotton, and that's all I had. That was the only furniture in there, and that's all I ever want to have in there. And it's just like this really cool space, and it just heats up. God's flashlight comes in at like 6:30 in the morning and just heats that fucker up. So like it just cranks, and so I pretend that's my hot yoga studio.
Yeah. Have you always been an artist?
I don't know. I always like to think of myself as like an entrepreneur, even though I for a long time didn't really know what that word meant. No, it's just something my dad would always say. But I guess I've always been creative, and growing up, I always had that knack. I was always able to just make weird little things or whatever, and I didn't really know where it was headed or how I would pursue that later in life. But in high school, I took an art class junior year, and I went from Art 1 to AP Art, so I skipped like 3 years of art, and I got a scholarship to Laguna College of Art and Design in the summers. And so that's like what kind of gave me confidence. Was like, whoa, okay, like, and I had this great art teacher, and I still see her today. She's retired now, and I still see her driving around in a little Volvo, and I fucking love her. And Mrs. Spencer in Newport Harbor High School, and she's just awesome. And she recognized it, because I was just one of the only kids that really took to it and understood it and really gave a shit. Yeah. A lot of kids were in that class just to hang out and just fuck off. And I just, and I was too, but I just was very good at it. And so it came very easy to me. Yeah. And so I picked up real quick.
What did you like about it?
I just, it just clicked. I don't know. I couldn't tell you what it was. It just felt right. I think it gave me a voice, and it made me think about how to express ideas, and I like the challenge. Yeah. And I think for the first time in my life, it really made me think outside the box, and it really challenged me. Yeah. So I think that's what I like about it. Yeah. I like the project. I like to give myself projects. Yeah.
And it's one of the great things, too, about when you're younger is that you don't overthink it. You want to do it, and you do it. You have a capacity for being creative, but you don't think about it, and you don't need an explanation.
100%. And I'm so stoked when I see anybody that is pursuing, any kind of creative endeavor, and I'm so supportive of anything like that. Yeah. Just because people have this stuff inside of them, they need to get it out. Mm-hmm. So, and if you don't, you're just gonna end up an angry old grump, and it's not good.
I wonder why it can tend to fade. It's like a fear of vulnerability or self-consciousness or something.
Well, a lot of people are scared to try, and they live in fear. Yeah. And it's something that I lived in for forever, and it's fear of failure, fear of being thought of as a weird artist guy or whatever. And as soon as you get over those limitations, it's truly satisfying and freeing. I guess I don't even think that's a word, but like you just have this sense of inner peace that is just, it's incredible. And I still battle with it quite a bit, just from, I have goals and personal goals and things like that I really want. Yeah. And it's an internal struggle every day, but it should be. Yeah. And I've had great mentors that have really helped me understand that and learn to appreciate and hone those feelings. It's a big deal.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. Your mentors.
Yeah. Okay. I've had a bunch of them. I didn't realize that that's like a weird thing or like a not a normal thing, and I use that word lightly. Too much. Weird, and weird is good, and just unusual, and perfect is dead. There's all these little phrases and stuff like that. Living well. This is the one quote from my father was living well is an art form. The act of living well is an art form.
Love it.
And that's something that, he used to just say when he's had a few drinks and he just got all cocky and stuff. But it was something that I really started thinking about, and I really, understood that. And growing up, what happened was I grew up in a very well-to-do area, and, I idolized certain lifestyles of certain guys, and I was able to go out and reach out to these people that were very successful, and I admired their lifestyles, and be accepted by them and learn from them. And whether I worked for them or interned with them or just became family friends with them. And these are lifelong relationships that I went out and sought myself. Nobody told me to do it. Nobody showed me how to do it. I just did it. And I can't stress enough how vital and important these people have been to me and in my life. And I strongly suggest anybody who's thinking about doing anything, reach out and research and find out somebody that does something that you think is interesting, and meet them and see if that lifestyle is for you or whatnot. And it's not that you want to become these people, but they've had obvious success in doing what you want to do. So you're going to learn something. And, you don't ever want to be somebody else. You always want to be your own person. But it doesn't help. It doesn't hurt to know somebody that's done it before and can show you some ropes. So my first major mentor was a fellow named Jeff Yokoyama, who started Maui and Sons, Modern Amusement, Pirate Surf. He's the ultimate surf brand guru, and he's this little half Japanese dude. He's big as a minute, and I love him. He's Yoda. I see him every Friday. We have beers, and he understands youth culture better than anybody I've ever met in my entire life. He is truly an artist and a genius. And he's built huge companies, and he's had terrible loss, but he's also just a very zen mofo. Constantly is creating new things every single day. And I'll never forget the first day I walked in there. Yoki basically goes, "Hey, I can't pay you. I just bought this company or whatever." I go, "I'm not here for that. Like, I just want to be around. I just want to learn and stuff like that." And so he pointed to this old broken silk screen machine and goes, "Well, do you know how that works?" And I go, "No, but I can learn." He didn't even know how it worked. So I came back every day, and I fixed the silk screen machine, and I researched and I asked people, and I bugged the shit out of people to teach me how to do stuff, and I learned how to do the silk screen machine, and then I slowly just became part of the company, and then we moved locations, and I helped them build out. I've now helped them build out probably six shops. Help them design them and build them and do the whole deal, and it's been fun.
Yeah, I bet.
And they always change every time. They're always a different little concept, and it's been something that I don't even talk about, but it's a great experience just spending time with him. So he's like my other dad. He's truly. Him and his family have been so just kind to me, and I learn something from him every time I hang out with him. Yeah, and he's great. And I ended up going to work for another fellow named John Oswald, who was one of the three partners who started Paul Frank, the monkey brand. And he was starting a company called Quipo, which was a rainforest conservation company. Turning all of these clothes into other clothes and cutting them up and doing all sorts of crazy stuff. And so I had a little bit of a background and knowledge base on that. Whereas this was straight up environmental, where they're going out and buying the rainforest and then donating it, via products where you would, get a little code and you could see where your bit of rainforest was. And I learned so much of that job doing so many different things. And I truly learned how to be a real designer. I truly learned a lot about business, a small business, how to run one, how to start one. I learned about environmental businesses, about what works, what doesn't, what's greenwashing, what's not. And truly how to make a difference is like you really got to show people. And the biggest problem with, a lot of these environmental brands is the fact that like it's not as tangible as it needs to be, and they're trying to get something done. And initially they're really, started with a great intention, but it's very hard through business, like to really get anything, even the Tom's guys have, that's a great thing. They have like a backlash of like, oh, well then people come in and steal the shoes, or they're putting somebody out of business, or, the problem with those ideals and business models is the human intervention part. Like the human interaction part is always the problem, So I learned quite a bit, and then that company ended up switching, the business model of licensing. So I learned creative licensing of like how to make money, and it was fascinating. And I'd learned from John, who became one of my mentors, just all that business savvy, and he is just a gangster and a rock star, just a very cool dude, and smart, just a smart individual, and I truly learned so much just from him, and I still am very close with him. And another guy that had worked there that has kind of been a mentor to me is a fellow named Alex Funderburk, who's possibly the greatest character graphic artist I have ever met in my life. And he is so quick and so good, and just a true pro in every sense of the word. I cannot speak highly enough about him. And he also does street art and some of these other visual mediums, and he's an amazing painter and stuff. And so it was really great to have him as kind of like my older brother, and I really look up to him quite a bit.
Yeah. And other than the work ethic and the just general talent, and you getting the exposure to these objective skills,
God, what were they so much better than me?
What were they teaching you? Or were they teaching you anything else?
Oh, just about life, always. Yeah. It's a lifestyle thing and the choices. And, all these guys could not be more different. And I've had some other great mentors now getting into the art world, but also in business and growing up. And just very, very smart, successful individuals. And I ended up working for a avocado company right after that, Simpatica, and I ended up doing all the branding and marketing and a lot of the creative stuff, and then a little bit of business development, here and there. And that was through another fella, these two guys that started that and own that company, Jamie Johnson and a fellow named Brian Burkett, and these two are just awesome. It's been great. So I've really had a business background, design backgrounds, and creative backgrounds. So it's been really interesting, my story. And I've always just been so attracted to these great guys and these great men that have had all these interesting experiences. And I always fail to look back and understand, like, no, this is pretty cool stuff that and I totally don't take it for granted. I appreciate every second of it, and it's just been such a journey. And then now there's an artist, Chris Gwaltney, who's been kind of a mentor to me, and he is a painter out of Laguna that's just been crushing life for forever, and he's just the coolest. It's
great how you've kind of followed your nose and gotten this very unique set of experiences, really across the board.
Right. And I truly need to start really appreciating that more and understanding that, and because it's a huge part of who I am, obviously, and I'm so family oriented, and everybody has wild stories and stuff, but I've been just so grateful to have these fellas in my life to show me some little tricks here and there. It's great to be able to lean on these guys, or if I really have questions, and especially now with my father being gone, my greatest mentor left very early, so it's been just I can't tell you how important it's been, in the last year or so since my dad's passed, that these guys are just available, make themselves available. I mean, these guys are just very busy, powerful dudes that, will always lend a ear, and they're fucking hilarious. Every single one of them. I would love to have a beer with every single one of these guys, they're just good dudes.
Yeah. I'm sorry to hear about your father.
It's a huge part of life, but I was actually flying out here when he passed. That was the last time I was coming out here. Originally, I was going to have some major meetings with some very gnarly people, and I was really doubting. I was going through those last little minute jitters, and I called my father to tell him where I was going and what was going on, and Dad, is this really what I want to do? Like, fuck, being an artist, like, come on, it's like telling people you want to be like an actor or something, or where people just don't take you seriously until they've seen you in something, or and even art is probably even worse, like, well, fuck, you're good luck, and so it's crazy, and I'm very sensible. I'd like to think so, and I went through that whole phase of like questioning: is this really something that I can do? Is this, am I gonna be able to raise a family and the way that I want to, and shit, and it's gonna be tough, and so I called him freaking out, and he just gave me the best advice. He just said, "Babe, you'll be okay. Like, you're a smart guy. You're very coachable. I'm not worried about you getting a job. Like, if this fails, which it won't, you're gonna be fine. And so I finally he talked me off the edge, and it was great. And then I got to say I love you, and it was the best thing. It was the last thing I said to him. And I got to New York. My brother called me. I was here, literally, block away at Chase's place. We just had a burrito, and I got a phone call, and he goes, "Dad died." And so, I flew home right there. So I was in New York for maybe an hour. I flew right home, and I happened to be right at the same terminal actually where I spoke to him for the last time in Arizona. I had written this thank you note, or and this great thing, and I left it on the plane. I had a fucking meltdown at this plane, and this stewardess, I'll never forget her. Her name was Jenny Overman, and she went out and she stopped this plane to and went and got my note that I had written for my father, and it was just another weird experience. But it was the exact same terminal and the exact same gate, and so it was just all these weird things have lined up for me. And so I flew into the desert and got to hold his hand and thank him, and the whole family was there, and he went that night, and it was, I think it went for whatever it was. We ended up finding that it was essentially a melanoma that came up in his brain, a brain tumor that killed him, and he had brain cancer and he died of it, and he had passed a physical that day. And so it was crazy that, everything played out, but everything kind of happens for a reason. And so I just really have had to bunker down and understand, I'm on the right path, and just keep reminding myself it's all good. And it's not that I've never really worried about financial stuff. And I know that's a huge concern, and I probably should a little more than I do, but it's never been about money. It's never been about that. It's always just about getting this thing and these ideas out of me, and finding a way, and the challenge, and going out and learning new skills, and meeting great people doing interesting things, and the conversations that come out of that, and the ideas that come out of that, and the pursuit of the creation of things has just been the driving force of my life, and it's been epic and so cool and so rewarding to be able to pursue that, at least in these last year and a half, 2 years.
Good for you.
Yeah, thanks, man. It's just it's awesome. Very lucky.
And then being able to have that compulsion to create it, and then working through it and then sharing it, I imagine is great too.
Yeah, it is. The last couple of shows have been so exhausted that people think I'm not happy or something. I'm just so tired. I'm just I just spent so long just by myself, and I need to be out with people, but I was so exhausted I didn't get to have that fuck yeah moment. But working on that. So nobody's harder on me than me. So I just need to learn slowly how to just relax.
Yeah. Have you heard of the term Lebenskünstler?
Is this a trivia question now? No, of course not. What? No.
Lebenskünstler. It's a German word.
Okay.
Quote, connotes a person who approaches life with the zest and inspiration of an artist, although he or she may not be working recognizably as an artist. And I'd heard the term. The only time I ever heard the term was Richard Linklater, the filmmaker.
Yes.
Did Boyhood and Days Confused. And
he just thinks on that same level. And how many people go, fuck, I had a similar idea, but he did it. No, he did it.
Yeah, and he keeps doing it.
Yes.
But your comment about your dad earlier, about him being an artist of life, reminded me of it. And
right.
I mean, what better legacy to lead for anybody, but especially your family. So it's
and exposure. And that was the one gift my father bestowed on all of his children was exposure. The one thing they just showed us was just that people, live a certain way, and just to be happy. And, instead of going out and, spending X amount on, he did all sorts of stuff. But I mean, for the same amount that you could go buy, 4 Big Macs at McDonald's, you could go get a piece of fish, turn on barbecue, hang out and have a beer with your friends under the stars.
Yeah.
It's those conscious choices of doing things in a particular way that truly make that whole, concept of living well as an art form, and it's awesome. And I'm a huge believer in that.
It's a thoughtfulness.
100%.
Yeah.
Intentional thoughtfulness, and being authentic.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not worrying about other people, what other people think, just doing you. And it just becomes who you are.
Yeah. And authenticity, I would imagine as an artist, you have your inspirations, or you have artists that you admire, or that you could hope to be compared to. But,
oh my God,
but you also want, as you said earlier, you have to do your own thing.
Right. And it's great to learn from other people. And I'm very bad at looking at a lot of other artists, because subconsciously your work starts being affected by it, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
And so I kind of have this isolationist mentality, and I love seeing other stuff. And maybe it's this competitive cockiness thing that is brewing inside of me, because I've never been that way. And so it's not that I don't like other people's work, and I do. I admire all creative facets very much. It's just for me, I just can't allow myself to be affected by other people when it comes to the way that I want to start approaching projects.
Yeah. What keeps you going when you have the hesitance or the frustrations earlier on of breaking in and admitting to yourself that you're going to do this?
Family, 100%.
Yeah.
Family and friends. I've been truly blessed to have a great network of friends. My friends from home, friends from school, and family.
Yeah.
And my mother's, I would say, my best friend. The guys, but I spent so much time alone. As a lot of creative people do.
Yeah.
And so it's great to be able to just kind of harp on some things with some people, even though it's not what you should be doing. You should always just be moving forward. But it's just been so great, and these mentors, and just everybody has terrible, horrible things that happen to them.
Mm-hmm.
But it's truly the people around you that keep you going and keep me happy, and it's awesome. And all I want to do is be able to return the love that's been given to me. So it's a defining characteristic, I'd like to say, of myself, is that I just live this very loving lifestyle, and I'm just so grateful for all my friends and everybody that's been so good to me.
Yeah. Yeah, and sometimes in the face of hardship or pain, it will, transfigure itself through love or whatever you choose to focus on, however you choose to express it.
Totally. Yes, 100%. And then I use that in another facet of how do I approach this next project, or really being thoughtful of the next project and how things should affect. So I just, I'm working on the surf panel series right now, and there are just so many other projects that I just need to lock away for, the next 5-10 years. And it's just great to have goals. I'm very focused on what I'm doing.
Yeah. What is the ideal situation professionally for you?
Well, it depends. There's a certain level of success that you want to have so that you can have that kind of creative freedom that is ideal. And that is traveling and being able to take care of your family and the people that take care of you. And I think that is one level. The other level is something that you get when you're just proud of yourself. And my views are just a little different. Whereas I want to do larger works. Eventually, they're on the same scale as like Anish Kapoor and big city center type of works, because I want people to interact with them, and I want people to think about things, and that's the level that I want to be at. And I know those are huge, massive projects, and they're very expensive to produce and do all that. But you get to work in such a collaborative environment. You get to deal with architects and city planners and all that kind of stuff, and I love doing that stuff, and that's the goal.
The same scale as what? Sorry.
Like Anish Kapoor and the Bean in Chicago.
Yep.
He does these massive sculptures that are just incredible. And there's a lot of people that are out there that are doing some incredible work. The 3D printing and all that kind of stuff. It's great, and I'm looking into using that. I'm building a huge one the size of like this room, building a 3D printer that hopefully will print possibly. We're looking into it, so I don't know. We'll see if this all plans out, but whether we're going to fuse it. So I'm researching how to do the binding part of it, but we want to print essentially cow bones, or the leftover calcium, and see if it works underwater as a coral reef kind of. And so we want to do these huge pieces, and then so the idea is that we would do these very large pieces, and maybe it'd be some kind of head or something kind of interesting that people are familiar with, and you plant them in like 7 different major reefs. And we document them, and we do them, and maybe they're all different colors or something. But then, I don't know if we want to pull them out, because if they take hold, you don't want to ever remove, the reef. But the idea would be to showcase and show people in person, what's going on in the ocean, and how better could you do that than the living thing, and whether if they all died or the skeletons that are left over. And then people, this is what's going on in this reef. This is what's going on in this reef. This one is, growing very well. This one is being bleached.
Yeah.
And it's that next level of awareness where it's environmental, but it's using technology, but you're dealing with one of the, oldest, largest organisms on the planet. So that is where my brain is going. It's just the evolution. And so there's a few big kind of dream projects, but that's next level cool stuff that I'm looking into now. It's awesome. And
Yeah.
then people that explain have the same look on your face, and they're just like, whoa, okay, man, like next level. But that's where it all, you got to start somewhere.
Good for
and you
you.
chip away. And
Yeah.
that's, and at that level too, clearly you'd be, probably living okay lifestyle, but it's just more about traveling and being able to create a space for myself in this world that I love.
Yeah.
And if I'm that guy that is able to create these meaningful projects
Yes.
In this aquaculture space, and it deals with life and growth, then I'm happy. Then I've made it. Then I'm successful.
Yeah. I mean, and think every single day you go to work, you know that there's this lofty, meaningful goal that you're striving for.
Always.
Yeah.
Always. And so there's cool projects that you think are interesting, that I think are interesting, versus meaningful, empowering projects, right?
Yeah.
So it's, where do you spend your time and effort? But there's so many things that are on my brain constantly. And I think that's kind of something that people can see sometimes when I'm just thinking, and it's just like, I'm just not there. And I'm just so far down the rabbit hole. And, but it's good. And it's good to have these goals so that I'm not always thinking about the same thing all the time.
Yeah. So let's say an alien walks into the room and says, Pierce, what is art and why does it matter?
Okay, so this is a question that I just had an argument with my brother, who's going to become a lobbyist, right?
Oh, perfect.
So we just go back and forth all day, and he is just so black and white, and I just live so in the gray. And art is essential. I think it's what makes us human. I think it's what makes people unique. I think artists and creative people have a leg up on the world. They're able to create things out of nothing. I think it's very special and admirable. There's so many things that can be outsourced or given to a machine or whatnot, but creativity and true creative power is just unique to, it's what makes humans unique.
Yeah.
I think in our capacity for love and understanding love and expressing ourselves through mediums to express that love or hate. I think that is art, and art is just creative expression, and that takes so many forms and so many mediums, and whether that's through craft, whether that's through song, whether that's fine arts or what's considered fine arts, and that is broadening. That whole range is changing every single day. I saw recently an amazing Picasso, but it was glass art. It was, he took 50 of his most famous works at the end of his life, or nearing the end of his life, and recreated them through these stacking of glass where it looked almost like a mosaic, but it's backlit, and it was gorgeous. And is that art? Yes, fuck yes, that's art. It wasn't his painting, but he was constantly changing mediums constantly, just so that he was staying relevant and interesting to himself. Mm-hmm. And I think that is just, the all-time pursuit.
Yeah.
Always, every day.
Yeah. Yeah, and the conversation that results from the expression.
And the idea. Yeah. And, and the beauty of it, it's not everybody's idea is the same. Yeah. You might not agree with everybody, and they might not agree with you, but that's what makes us human. So I think it's very human. I mean, art... It's such a hard question to ask, even though it's such a basic thing and easy thing to ask, that, it's so complicated. Yeah. But I just think it truly, art is to be human. Like, it's just like, I guess. I mean, that sounds so, like, monumental, but it's just,
it's just, or it deserves to be monumental.
I mean, truly. I think the pursuit, and it's been the great joy of my life, and I hope it continues to be.
Yeah, good for you, man.
Thanks,
I
man.
look forward to... someday commissioning a surf panel.
We'll do something. Don't worry about that, man. There's all sorts of other crazy stuff that we're working on that might blow your mind. That's gonna be good.
Oh, I was gonna say, I also want to be part of the Coral Reef project.
Oh man, we're looking, and there's some great people that are circling the project. And God, if it happens, and it'll just be great stuff.
It's exciting. It's to think of what you're creating with the surf panels. As it becomes something it's so much bigger than the sum of its parts.
Right.
And so knowing you and knowing the story behind your influences in Southern California culture and surf culture and aquaculture and your family and your love of your upbringing, and then that manifests itself into your work. And I think that's what makes it so exciting, is it?
Well, thanks. It's truly, it's this life that I, as didn't plan, and you know, it wasn't according to what I wanted to do, but it happens, and I just learned to accept it and just thrive on it.
Yeah.
And it's been just so great, the people that I've met and the experiences and doing things like this, and it's just been unreal. And it's a dream, and it's so cool, and the great conversations that come, and the people are doing so many interesting things, and it makes me feel, I mean, I meet so many people, but they're doing good things, and it just makes me feel like so like I'm doing the wrong thing or such a piece of shit when these people are doing just amazing projects, and I'm just like, oh, I go home and like just cry in the showers. Jeez. But it's great, man.
Yeah, it's just getting started. Keep it going, man.
Thank you. Yeah, it is, and I'll keep you up to date with Japan, and you know, the groups over there are so great, and they appreciate culture, and I'm just such a fan of culture. You know, I think that's kind of my whole thing is culture, and being being able to represent cultures, and I always have this like idea of being almost a method artist in the sense of like where you just get obsessed with the culture, you learn about it, similar to how somebody's documenting or doing a documentary, whereas you just get immersed in it, and then at some point you're able to create via becoming the artist something that is representative of that culture, and I think that's something that I look forward to. But at the end of the day, I'm slowly creating my own culture. And so what does that look like? How does that look? And so that's something I think about all the time.
Yeah, it's constantly evolving.
Yeah.
Can we talk about your connection to Japan and the Japanese aesthetic and how that...
Yeah, absolutely, man. So I've had a huge appreciation for the Japanese culture. I haven't been there. Like, I want to go so bad, and I'm going, and it's going to be epic. And so I was approached by this group, the Ron Herman group, as well as another group from the Slope Gallery. And so there's two different groups. And I wasn't trying to be, backhanding anybody or anything. I just was very open and transparent and said, listen, I'm doing whichever show can be lined up first. And I'd like to do both. I'd like to not say either or, but say and, because not being greedy, I really just want to go over there and see what'll work. And I had no exposure to the Japanese markets as far as art and things like that, but I've always had an appreciation in Yoki had a huge following over there in Japan, and with modern amusement and some of his brands, and so he's dealt with a couple of these groups, and then our good friends here at Saturday Surf has had just phenomenal success in Japan, and they just appreciate I think our similar aesthetic, as far as at least there seems to be a huge appreciation for this kind of surf art kind of creative culture there, similar with Pilgrim, here in Brooklyn's having awesome success. And so I've been just following their street culture and their street aesthetic and their fashion and just the wild stuff that they wear and all that shit. And like I used to be so up with it all the time when I was in fashion. I used to always look at it constantly and admire it, and just how they geek out on the weight of the denim to this old vintage shirt that was so perfectly torn in the right spot, and it was very funny to me, and I get it now. It's interesting. So they approached me, and we're developing out a show for them that will be in Tokyo and then move to Kyoto, and I hope that it's the beginning of a great relationship. And they have a little gallery space that they're creating that they've done, and there's been some talks about certain hotels and stuff too that are now gearing up for the Olympics coming up in 2020, right? So there's opportunity for some very large projects and some great things over there. So my work and my aesthetic and everything is very clean, and very, even though it's messy, it's clean, or very raw. They seem to really pick up on it. So I hope it goes off well. I just want to have enough time to plan it and really give it, the show, enough love to where I really feel good about it. So I'm in that phase right now of just going through the colors and going through kind of in my head curating the best show possible.
Thanks for coming on the show. It's been awesome to have you and catching up. And you're an inspiration. Keep going.
No, thank you guys, and thanks for having me. And I'm just so pumped to be here, and happy to see you, and I miss you, man. And there's great things that are gonna come.
Definitely.